Hi everybody, welcome to Christian Homestead. My name is Jared. There's some breaking news today. I don't know if you've already seen this or not, but we're going to head over to X. This is a post by President Donald Trump, and I just have the post pulled up from Rapid Response 47, the official White House Rapid Response account. And President Trump said, "To all airlines, pilots, drug dealers, and human traffickers, please consider the airspace above and surrounding Venezuela to be closed in its entirety. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump." So that's kind of shocking. It kind of isn't. You know, we've seen this aircraft carrier come from the Mediterranean along with other ships and troops. And I've really wondered, what's going to happen? Is this all for show? Is the United States actually going to do something? What's the extent to which it'll do something? Is this going to turn into full-blown war? I don't think it will, but I decided to do some more research and kind of like understand what is it that we're seeing here and what could this turn into. I also decided to add this to my spreadsheet that we don't come to very often, called Quotes Prophecy Fulfillment Tracker. And this is a list of all the scriptures that I've, put together that have some kind of prophecy. And I'm trying to determine, have these been fulfilled, or are they yet to be fulfilled, or have they partially been fulfilled? In the case of the ones that have been fulfilled, I'm typically looking for quotes from prophets or apostles in this dispensation that declare that a certain prophecy has been fulfilled. In this case, I have this quote. This is from John Young of the Quorum of the 12. But there's some where it's pretty clear that it's been fulfilled because they're speaking in generalities. So if we're talking about Matthew 24, verse 6, "And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet." And aside from Elder John Young saying it, it seems pretty clear that we've seen plenty of wars and rumors of wars. In the case of rumors of wars, I just put together a quick list, and I'll add on to this in the future. And I want to work more on this spreadsheet to think of ways that prophecies may have been fulfilled, find more quotes and stuff like that. But in the case of rumors of wars, I'm adding this potential military action against Venezuela. Could it become a full-scale war? It could. Again, I don't think it will, but it could. We also have more, traditional and long-term rumors of wars. For example, we have the Cold War, probably the biggest rumor of war that the world has ever seen. We've had this ongoing thing between the United States and North Korea, which that could turn into a war someday. I don't know how close it's gotten to be an actual war or to reignite from the Korean War. But we have that. There's been a number of times that India and Pakistan have butted heads over Kashmir, including recently. I think earlier this year there was, there was a flare-up. There was a more intense exchange between those two nuclear-powered or nuclear-capable countries. And then we have China and Taiwan, which I feel like we are going to see that at some point. I'd be surprised if that didn't happen. Okay, so we have that. Now, there's more to this thing with Venezuela because it's looking like it is going to become some kind of ground operation. I'll show you in just a second. I wanted to show you this, though. This was reposted by Sprinter Press. This is Bruno Rodriguez, the foreign minister of Cuba. He posted, "We denounce persistent electromagnetic interference in the Caribbean, particularly over the airspace of #Venezuela, caused by the offensive and extraordinary military deployment of #United States in the region." So this is kind of interesting that you have this, jamming interference that's going on. Again, it's not surprising, but I just want to show you that I guess that is happening, at least to at least according to Cuba's foreign minister, Bruno Rodriguez. And then I wanted to show you a few other things. This is from Newsweek. Donald Trump says U.S. to launch land action in Venezuela very soon. This was published yesterday, November 28th. President Donald Trump has said the United States is preparing to take new action against alleged drug trafficking networks in Venezuela, with strikes on land set to start, quote unquote, very soon. But Trump hinted at more direct action against Venezuela on Thursday. He said his campaign had hampered the drug trade by sea, quote, and will be starting to stop them by land also. Adding, the land is easier, but that's going to start very soon. So, I don't know. I'll be really interested to see if that happens. You don't typically see a lot of warfare in the Western Hemisphere. It has happened. There's been smaller things that have taken place, including by the United States. But it sounds like this has the potential to be substantial. Again, I don't know how likely it is that it'll become a full-blown war. I don't think that it will. Excuse me. I don't think it will. Toward the end of the video, we're going to look at the potential justifications, like the legal justifications for taking this action, because that's been one of the big questions on my mind. How will he justify it legally? What's been done in the past? Because I'm aware of all sorts of limited strikes and military actions in the past by other administrations. What did they do? And is President Trump going to do something similar? Or is it going to go as far as declaring war, which would require Congress to be on board? Only Congress can authorize war. Let me read some more from this. So here's the current state of affairs in the Caribbean. More than a dozen warships and 15,000 troops have been amassed as part of Operation Southern Spear. U.S. troops have carried out at least 21 strikes on alleged drug boats since September, killing at least 83 people, according to Reuters. Later on, this Newsweek article points to a CNN article that talked about the legal justification. So I have that pulled up. This is CNN now. Lawmakers were told during the classified session that the opinion produced by the Justice Department's Office of Legal Counsel to justify strikes against suspected drug boats, first reported by CNN last month, does not permit strikes inside Venezuela itself or any other territories, four sources said. So what they've been doing with the drug boats, whatever justification has been used for that, they're saying the legal opinion is that it would not translate to action on land. But I'll show you how this will probably still happen and under what justification. Continuing, the executive order that launched the U.S. military campaign against suspected drug boats that began in September also does not extend to land targets, the briefer said, according to the sources. Officials did not rule out any potential future actions, one of the sources said. The existing OLC, which again, that's Office of Legal Counsel, opinion includes a list of 24 different cartels and criminal organizations based around Latin America. It says the administration is authorized to target, according to one of the sources familiar with the document. Going back to the Newsweek article, there's just a few more things, or there's just one more thing. It comes just days after the U.S. State Department officially designated the Venezuela-based Cartel de los Soles as a foreign terrorist organization. Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro is accused by the U.S. of heading the group. And from what I've seen, it seems like I've seen in a number of different places that the idea is to change the regime and get rid of Maduro. And I do think that that's going to happen. That's my best guess. I've wondered up until this point, could this be part of like, I think it's still ongoing, the global war on terrorism? Let's see. The global war on terror. I'm just going to check really quick. The main phase went from September 14th of 2001 until August 30th of 2021. That was just a couple weeks after I started my channel. But it seems like it's still technically ongoing. So I was wondering if like there'd be some kind of legal justification using that, since these different organizations are being designated as terrorists, would that be the legal way by which they would do these attacks? I went to Grok and asked for examples of other times that any administration had to use limited military force and what the justification was. It says, U.S. presidents have frequently conducted limited military strikes, airstrikes, drone strikes, or small-scale ground raids. So that's interesting because that may be what we see, maybe small-scale ground raids. Without a formal congressional declaration of war or specific statutory authorization under the 2001/2002 AUMFs, which is authorized use of military force. It's basically like when Congress says, okay, under these set of circumstances, you can do this. So for example, in connection with the Afghanistan war and Iraq war, it's like, okay, anything associated with this, you don't need to come and ask every time, or it can spill over to other related groups. I'm just paraphrasing. Okay, continuing. Below are the main legal justifications they and their administrations have actually invoked in practice with concrete historical examples, including the two you mentioned. Okay, so let's go back to 1998. Bill Clinton, he had Operation Desert Fox, which was a Iraq bombing campaign. I remember that. I was in middle school at the time. I've always been a news junkie, even from an early age. So in that case, the primary legal justification was Article 2, the Commander-in-Chief authority, plus existing UN SCRs, which are UN Security Council Resolution, UN Security Council resolutions, plus the 1991 AUMF interpreted broadly. So again, that's the authorized use of military force. In 1991, that's probably associated with Desert Storm. So I want to go to the bottom here. It kind of points out three main justifications that are used. So pure Article 2 Commander-in-Chief authority, which was one of the ones that was just mentioned, used when the administration does not want to rely on any statute or when the target clearly falls outside existing authorized use of military force. Examples: Libya 2011, Syria 2017, Soleimani 2020, and Iran nuclear sites 2025. That's when we bombed Fardo with, I think it was just Fardo, with B-2 bombers. So that's one, pure Article 2 Commander-in-Chief authority. Number two is authorized use of military force. And then number three is no hostilities argument under the War Powers Resolution 1973. The Obama administration's most controversial innovation in Libya 2011 essentially claims that if U.S. forces face little or no risk of casualties and there is no ground troop presence, the 60-day clock never starts. Subsequent administrations have quietly continued the same practice, but rarely state it so explicitly. I think that has to do with, okay, you can initiate military action, but It can only last for 60 days, and if it's gonna go beyond that, then Congress has to approve it, right? So going back up here, so we just talked about Operation Desert Fox with Bill Clinton. Also under Bill Clinton, cruise missile strikes on Al Qaeda in Sudan and Afghanistan after embassy bombings. And then it points out Barack Obama, 2011, intervention in Libya. And by the way, all these so far have invoked Article 2. This one with Obama, no hostilities under War Powers Resolution, 1973. You also have drone/airstrikes in Yemen, Somalia, Pakistan, Syria, and Libya from 2009 to 2016 under Obama. He used the 2001 authorization or authorized use of military force and Article 2. Donald Trump, Shayrat Airfield cruise missile strike, 2017, Syria chemical weapons. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. I totally forgot about that. Yeah, so strikes against Syria, chemical weapons. The Soleimani strike in 2020, Baghdad drone strike, and again, with Donald Trump these two times, Article 2. In the case of the Soleimani strike, there was also the 2002 Iraq authorized use of military force. The B-2 strike this year on Iran, Article 2. And then supplemental and controversial reliance on the 2001 authorization. Oh my gosh, I keep messing that up. Authorized use of military force. Joe Biden, airstrikes on Iranian-backed militias in Syria and Iraq, Article 2, plus 2001 and 2002 authorized use of military forces. And then in 2022, strike killing Ayman al-Zawahiri, Kabul drone strike, and that used a 2001 authorized use of military force. So anyway, so hopefully this gives you an idea of how this would be justified. I don't know if it could go beyond, unless there's some kind of authorized use of military force, which it doesn't sound like there is. And since it seems like there's probably going to be airstrikes because of it's now like a no-fly zone over Venezuela. And because they're saying that they're going to use ground troops, it seems like this would fall under the territory of, what was it called? Sorry, I'm not a lawyer. I don't have all these things memorized. War Powers Resolution of 1973. So maybe it would be something where it's like 60 days. And then after that, they would need authorization from Congress to continue. Maybe it'd be something like that. I don't think it would fall under the no hostilities loophole that Obama used, because if you send in ground troops, it does seem like there would be, because what he was saying with no hostilities is like, well, the 60 days doesn't apply because none of us are going to get hurt. And that's what would have to happen, is troops would have to be in danger. So technically, we don't need to worry about the 60 days. Well, in this case with Venezuela, anytime that you have ground troops, I think that there is substantial risk of troops getting hurt. So I don't think that Trump would be able to use that. So I'm not confident about authorized use of military force. Definitely not no hostilities, I would say. Not that I'm a lawyer. Maybe pure Article 2 by itself. But if it turned into like a large scale thing, I'm sure that you would need authorization from Congress. Only Congress can declare war. And then if it's War Powers Resolution of 1973, if I'm understanding it correctly, then you'd have like the 60 days. Continuing, in practice, modern presidents almost never seek advance congressional authorization for limited strikes. They notify Congress within 48 hours under the War Powers Resolution, assert one or more of the justifications above, and dare Congress to pass a law cutting off funding or otherwise restraining them, which has never happened for a limited operation. So maybe that's it. Just uh, presidents of the United States have been able to do this without pushback from Congress, and it seems like regardless of the justification, so it's just like, oh, let's just do it if it remains just a limited thing. Let's see. I want to expand a little bit on pure Article 2. It means the president is relying solely on his constitutional powers as commander-in-chief, and sometimes his Article 2 foreign affairs powers, and is not claiming any statutory authorization from Congress. No authorized use of military force, no war powers resolution compliance in the sense of admitting hostilities, no specific congressional resolution. When the president or his lawyers invokes pure Article 2 authority, they are asserting some version of the following arguments. Number one, the president has independent constitutional power to use military force abroad to protect important U.S. national interests without prior congressional approval. It seems like that would definitely be the case here, according to what the administration is saying. They're protecting the United States from drugs that are pouring in. Number two, this power is at its maximum when the operation is limited in scope, duration, and risk to U.S. forces, airstrikes, drone strikes, cruise missile attacks, and very small raids. Again, maybe that's what Trump is referring to when he says that. How did he word it again? Let me just go back to the Newsweek article. Strikes on land set to start very soon. So maybe that would just be very small raids under the Article 2 section that I'm reading. Number three, Congress's constitutional power to declare war applies only to major full-scale wars, not to these smaller operations. Number four, the War Powers Resolution 1973 is either unconstitutional or does not apply because the operation does not introduce U.S. forces into hostilities or situations where imminent involvement in hostilities is clearly indicated. I think the War Powers Resolution has something to do with the United Nations, and that's why this last number 4, why it's saying some people think it's unconstitutional, because it's like, oh, this has nothing to do with the laws of our country. Let's see. Core legal debate, very simplified. The first bullet point is executive view, or all modern presidents. Article 2 gives the president virtually unilateral authority to limited uses of force. Congress can only stop him by cutting off money or passing a new law, which requires veto-proof majorities, because the president can veto them unless there's a veto-proof majority. And the second bullet point, some in Congress and many scholars, outside of immediate self-defense against an actual attack on the U.S., virtually all uses of military force require congressional authorization. Pure Article 2 strikes are therefore unconstitutional. In practice, since the 1970s, Congress has never forced a president to stop a limited air, drone, raid campaign once it began. So the pure Article 2 theory has effectively won every real-world test since Vietnam. Is that going to happen here? I don't know. Rumors of war. We'll have to see. I don't know. I'm really highlighting this one just because it feels so unusual. We're more used to wars and skirmishes and conflicts and operations happening in the Middle East, or some other part of the world, the Middle East, Asia, something like that. It was really startling when Russia invaded Ukraine. Uh, I feel like that really deserves to be highlighted. It's the largest land war in Europe since World War II, and it still isn't over. And I don't know how it comes to an end. But anyway, having this happen in the Western Hemisphere, maybe, right now we're focused on the moment. And maybe it's just going to come and go. It'll take place over a few weeks, a few months, and then they'll achieve their objectives, and that'll be it. And I tend to think that that's what's going to happen. I don't think it's going to become a full-scale war. I think it would be a really unpopular war. Yeah, I don't see it happening. Do you? Do you think it's going to turn into a full-scale war? Let me know in the comments below. What do you think is going to happen? How long do you think it's going to last? I feel like it's all but certain that something is going to happen. So I don't think there's any chance at this point that nothing's going to happen. I guess the question is just how big of an action, how big of an operation is this going to be? So anyway, I just wanted to put that on your radar. But that's going to be it for this one. I'll talk to you guys later.